All right, we are on the air because of a man being sentenced to federal prison today. Jonathan Felkel, he pled guilty to violating the housing rights of his neighbor, Jarvis McKenzie, and now he has been sentenced on a hate crime in a federal court here in Columbia to 9 years in prison. We understand that prosecutors and the sheriff are meeting with the media outside the federal courthouse. Let's listen in live.
State's Attorney for the District of South Carolina. Today I'm joined by Richland County Sheriff Leon Lott, FBI Special Agent Luke Davis, L. Klein, Lamar Raphael from the prosecution team, and members of the, well, that's it. Today Jonathan Felkel was sentenced to 108 months in federal prison. As you heard, for those that were in court, the court wanted to send a message that this was not going to be tolerated in South Carolina. That's 9 years. He'll do 3 years supervised release after that. This incident happened literally a year ago tomorrow. So this is quick justice. This is quick work. This is a great relationship with the Sheriff's Department, with our prosecutors, U.S. Attorney, and the FBI. South Carolina, when this happened, was deeply shocked and saddened. The victim was on his way to work, just like all of us do every day. He was targeted and terrorized in his own neighborhood because of plainly his race, as you heard in court today. This type of racially motivated violence is not what South Carolina stands for and will not be tolerated. And I think the court in its sentencing wanted to send a message that this is not going to be tolerated, but also a deterrence to others that may be thinking of this. If you do this, you're going to be going to federal prison for a very lengthy time. Again, I'd like to thank Richland County Sheriff's Department for their quick work, their partnership, and the FBI for their quick work and partnership. It's almost unheard of for a federal case like this to move so quickly. Just under 1 year, as I said, tomorrow. I'd like to recognize Sheriff Lott for some comments, and then Luke Davis from the FBI. Sheriff?
It's very sad that we've got individuals like Felkel who has hate in their heart. We heard in court that he has a drug problem. A drug problem doesn't impact your heart. That's where the hate is. And today, justice was served. Now, even though the state of South Carolina doesn't have a hate crime, if you commit a hate crime in Richland County or anywhere in this state, you're going to be prosecuted. The partnership between the FBI and the United States Attorney's Office shows that this is not going to be tolerated. Today is an example of what's going to happen to you if you go out there and do it. I think the judge spoke loud and clear when she said that this is a deterrent for anybody else in our community who wants to go out and scare someone or injure someone just because of hate that they have. So justice was served today. Our victim, while he was not physically injured, will never be the same. His family will never be the same. The scars that they have will be there forever. And it's up to us as a community to support them, pray for them, uplift them, and help them move forward after what happened to them. But it's a sad day. It's not a day for joy anyway whatsoever, because our victim still will feel that pain forever. But justice was served today, and I think that's very important.
FBI doesn't have anything. We're happy to answer any questions that I'm sure you may have. Any questions for the U.S. Attorney's Office or FBI?
Can you clarify some details that were shared in court?
Sure.
As to why Felkel was riding around with the gun is that he was patrolling for black criminals.
Yes, he was patrolling. We found it through the investigation. He told multiple people that he was out there looking for criminals and black criminals, and that's why he shot at this person. And let me just say, a bullet has no conscience. Once it leaves a gun, it could end up anywhere. It could have ended up in this victim. It's just pure luck that it did not. Any other questions?
What did your searches of his computer show? Had you been visiting hate crime websites?
I'm going to defer to the investigators on that, and he may not have any comment. I don't.
Yeah, we can't comment.
He's not going to comment
Why
on the
can't you
investigation.
comment? That's kind of relevant. Is the motive of these people is a relevant matter that people want to know what made him this way.
Sheriff, do you have anything to?
I don't care what was in his computer, what was in his heart's what mattered. And that's what he told us was in his heart. I think initially people thought the only reason why he was charged was the statement that he made calling our victim a boy. It was the confession that he gave. He described the hate that he had in his heart for black people, and the only reason why he was riding around that morning was looking for black people to shoot. He was going to shoot our victim. That was his intent, and at the last moment, he didn't do it. But he still fired that weapon to intimidate and scare our victim. So the hate in his heart came from him.
And I think L. Klein may be able to give you some more information. John.
We're limited in what we can tell you to whatever we put on the public record. But what Mr. Felkel put on the record was this. It was that Mr. Felkel yelled "boy" when he shot the firearm. When he was investigated or interviewed by law enforcement, he made admissions that he wanted to target black people, that he wanted to take them out into a field and get rid of them. He then made admissions on jail calls later that supported what his ideological beliefs were, that he did have hate in his heart, as the sheriff said. So whether or not we searched those devices and what we found in those devices didn't really change the equation. We knew what his beliefs were and what his motives were just by his own statements alone.
After interviewing this subject, did he show any type of remorse or change in heart?
Well, I think you saw that today where, his lawyer, and he said that he was sorry, and his lawyer apologized to the family and apologized to the state for what happened. But it still happened, and I think the judge took that into consideration, that it still happened and it shouldn't happen, and wanted to send a clear message. And hopefully, anybody that is out there can see a message that if you do something like this, you're going to have a team of federal investigators and state and local law enforcement, federal law enforcement looking at you and trying to send you to federal prison.
Can you clarify what this will mean for the state charges that are still pending?
That would be a question for the solicitor's office, Byron Gibson.
Do you think this will lead to our state having a state crime, or hate crime law?
I prohibited from commenting on state things. The sheriff has spoken about this. I'll defer to him on that.
No, it won't. And I'm going to go back to the remorse. He showed remorse here in court. He didn't show any remorse that morning. He's showing remorse now because he got caught. If he hadn't got caught, I doubt if you'd have seen any remorse. You'd probably see him continue that same activity that he did that morning.
Can you clarify or just go deeper into how this case in itself really points to a bigger issue of maybe not having that state law?
We don't have a state law, we have a county ordinance, but I think what you see today is, though, even though we don't have a state law, if you commit a crime based on hate, you're going to be prosecuted. That's where, again, the partnership with the FBI and the United States Attorney comes into play. The federal government does have a hate crime law, and he was prosecuted for that. He was looked at for that. So even though we don't have one in the state, and I doubt if we'll ever have one, we're still going to lock you up, and you're going to be prosecuted if you commit a crime like that.
Has he committed any crimes like this before? Has he had any run-ins with the law at some point?
Lamar?
Yes. As you heard in court, he does not have a criminal history. That's why he was a criminal history category 1. And so, no, we don't have any evidence that he did anything like this before.
This is for Mr. Sterling. Why was this case, you talked earlier about how it was unprecedented, how quickly it was able to see completion. Why did it go so fast compared to other cases?
I just think the great work of the prosecutors for the United States Attorney's Office, the great investigation that Richland County did, the great investigation that the FBI did, and the coordination. I just think South Carolina is unique in our partnerships with federal, state, and local law enforcement and the prosecutors. And that's what you saw here today, a quick resolution to a case. And he came to court and pled guilty a while ago, and he was sentenced today.
How does that make y'all feel to be able to see something get fast-tracked where you're not having to sit around for years having to prosecute these cases?
Well, it's not how we feel. I think it's how, and you can, I know the victim's going to maybe come up, or his attorney's going to come up afterwards. You probably want to ask him. It makes me feel satisfied that justice was served today, and a clear message was sent by the court, a clear message was sent by federal and local law enforcement, and a clear message was sent by the U.S. Attorney's Office. If you do this type of crime, the civil rights crime, you're going to be held accountable, and you're going to go to federal prison in South Carolina. He won't go to federal prison in South Carolina, but you're going to go to federal prison, and we're going to prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it. I'm going to step aside and let these folks come up and talk.
All right, you just heard from Brian Sterling, the U.S. Attorney here in South Carolina. talking about the federal prison sentence for Jonathan Felkel. 9 years in federal prison. The prosecutor said he had no previous criminal history prior to this event that happened a year ago, tomorrow, in fact, a year ago tomorrow. Felkel pleading guilty to violating the housing rights of his black neighbor, Jarvis McKenzie, apparently using racial slurs and firing his weapons. Let's listen back in live. We believe McKenzie's attorney and maybe some family members, maybe McKenzie himself, is speaking with the media. Again, let's listen live.
FBI field office for their leading this investigation. Thank Sheriff Leon Lott and the Richland County Sheriff Department for their quick arrest and their investigation with this. The U.S. Attorney Brian Sterling, their office has been exceptional. Their Victim Services Department has been great as well, along with Assistant U.S. Attorneys Lamar Fowle and L. Klein. They have been in communication with us the entire time, and I think they did a fantastic job prosecuting this. As they said, it is pretty unprecedented for a case to be finished from arrest to plea underneath a year. That being said, I think the judge made a real pertinent statement saying that this sentence was meant to deter others from thinking this type of conduct has any place in our community. And to hear that he made a last-minute split-second decision not to shoot Jarvis, and that he was patrolling the neighborhood for black criminals who were part of criminal organizations, and he shot at Jarvis for no other reason outside of him wearing a white t-shirt being a black man, I think that has no place in our community, and I think all sentences should reflect stiff penalties to try to deter this. The state still does not have a state hate crime statute, but I'm pleased, and Jarvis is pleased, that the federal government stepped up, acted quickly, and despite all that, Jarvis is still feeling some type of way about all of this. And to hear details that we heard today, knowing there's more out there that we are going to get our hands on, there needs to be full justice here. I hope the solicitor's office continues to prosecute Felkel, and any other action that we're taking is for full justice and healing. This is just closing one door. He has to be held accountable for his actions in the criminal justice system. The state should continue to prosecute him for his state crimes, and we will pursue likely a civil action for the same. But I'm gonna let Jarvis, we're gonna answer some questions. Jarvis is gonna answer questions as well. He doesn't want to give a statement before we talk. If there's something that we can't answer, I'll just ask you respect not to push on that, but we're happy to take questions.
Mr. McKenzie, do you feel like you received any kind of justice and that he got the highest sentence possible? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I feel like I got some justice.
When you think back and reflect, this just opening up the door back to that very moment. Can you walk us through what goes through your mind when you are here at court and you just think back to those moments?
As far as what I've been hearing today, thinking back to that moment, a lot of stuff goes through my mind. There's a fear for my family, for what's going on in my neighborhood, you know, because being that it happened in my neighborhood, that's supposed to be a safe place for me and my family to call home, and it's not that no more. He took that away from us.
That's what I was going to ask as well. How has this forever changed, not just your home, but just your mental health and just overall?
Yeah, it changed a lot. It changed a lot, especially with my kids now. You know, they fear that it can happen again in the neighborhood that we stay in, so it changed a whole lot.
If you talk to some of the lawmakers who feel that there is no need for this statute for hate crime, could you describe how that really has, on a daily basis, changed you from the day that happened to now, so they can give a clear picture of what this type of crime really does to an individual, any group of people?
Well, I stated to him before, you know, as far as hate in the neighborhood, I stated to him that something should be done about that, you know what I'm saying? Where nobody else won't have to go through it, nobody else kids will have to go through that in the place of where they stay at.
Can you react to just the quick turnaround, literally happening the day before the 1-year mark of all this happening?
It's wild. I mean, you know, I wasn't expecting that to happen that day, you know what I'm saying? I was going to work, and then, you know, as far as what I found out today in the courtroom, I was a target, you know, so I wasn't expecting it, and I wasn't expecting for it to happen like that. Just,
And now coming again close to the 1 year mark, does it still feel like it happened just yesterday?
Yeah, it's all fresh again. Knowing the 1 year mark will be tomorrow, it's all fresh again.
When you leave the house now, what do you find yourself doing?
Sir?
When you leave the house now, what do you find yourself doing?
Shoot, looking around, a lot of things different. I don't just leave out the house no more like I used to. Now it's like I got to look over my bag, knowing who is who, you know what I'm saying, being that we're still in the same neighborhood that it happened in a year ago.
I know it may sound like some of these questions are the same, but knowing that this was an actual neighbor or somebody in the neighborhood, I mean, how shocking is that to you? I know that it's a nice subdivision. How shocking?
Well, it's real shocking. It's beyond what I can talk about, what I can explain, you know what I'm saying? My feelings is beyond shocking.
Just to clarify, did you live in the Spring Valley community, and was he a neighbor of yours?
Yes, sir.
How far away from your house to his house?
Our understanding is he lived in the same neighborhood.
Well, it's a huge
Yeah,
subdivision.
yeah, it is. But he lived near. We can't say his address, but
I don't want his address. I just want, is it a mile? Is it a half
under a mile.
Under a mile.
Yeah. So I think one thing the judge said, again, we're going to talk about state hate crime statute that's missing. There's nothing in state law deterring hate crimes. That's why the federal government had to do what they did. Without that being done, the subliminal message is this type of stuff is permissible here. That's why we need a state hate crime statute. The federal government did a fantastic job taking this seriously, and the court took it seriously. As John would appreciate, they deviated up, right? They deviated up to make sure the penalty reflected the seriousness of hate crimes having no place in the community. Jarvis should feel safe in his neighborhood, everybody else. And the judge said this is also about other people being protected and feeling safe.
And I understand, of course, we've got the max sentences, but any reaction or comment to the dismissal of one of the charges, I believe was the firearm charge?
Yeah, I think that it was pleas are pleas, so there's negotiations in them. So his use of the firearm, I think, was a big factor in the judge giving the max sentence. And quote, Judge Lewis said, "I'm going to give the victim the max that he asked for." I think that is more. I appreciate that more than the dismissal. I think that there was some recognition of that by the defendant as well, and his attorney. They mentioned that, so it was dismissed. But I think the fact that he received the max penalty under the guidelines that varied up splits the baby.
And I just want to clarify, can you say the specific charge that was dismissed?
It was that's a better question for the U.S. Attorney's Office, but I believe it was the gun crime associated with it. He pled to one count of the housing discrimination.
How satisfied are you with how everything went here in this year? Because obviously it was a fast-track case. When you became aware of this incident, if you could have imagined what the outcome would have been like, how does that stack up with what happened?
Yeah, I am. We see things across the country and in lots of communities where there's a lot of distrust with law enforcement and feeling like they didn't take things seriously. I will say that I have been extremely satisfied in the seriousness of the county sheriff department from Sheriff Lott initially making the charge. And my understanding is that Brian Sterling, when he heard about it, he called Sheriff Lott and said, "How can we help?" And hence you see the federal prosecution that happened very quickly. There was a partnership there, and on top of law enforcement doing their thing, they reached out. They communicated with us, the Victim Services Department. They were very accessible to Jarvis directly, and so I'm satisfied in law enforcement's response to this. I did not hear anybody, the Sheriff's Department or the U.S. Attorney's Office, say this wasn't that serious. Oh, he wasn't shot. That has never been uttered off of anybody's tongue or mouth. So I'm satisfied not only with the seriousness that they took, but their position to aggressively move it forward. Oftentimes cases will sit and linger on for years. This was done before we even reached the anniversary.
Mr. McKenzie, did you hear him yell at you that morning?
Yes, sir.
And you heard his exact words?
Yes, sir.
That you better run, boy, or something?
Yes,
like
sir.
That? How'd that make you feel?
I was like shocked, like what's going on, you know?
Did you realize right away it was a racist comment?
Yeah, of course.
We
Just want to make sure.
we've been black a long time now. So we know what that means. If somebody says, you better run, boy, with a gun in the July heat, early morning, I mean, it goes without saying. And on top of that, you could tell it was racist for what he said, but what he admitted to in his reasons is just leaves me speechless.
Why do you think he admitted to all of that?
I don't know, but it shows what was in his heart. And hopefully other people, if they feel the same, they should realize they should get that worked out and don't let it manifest like Felkel let it manifest.
How do you feel about his apology?
To tell the truth.
I don't think it was genuine. You know what I'm saying? So all I can do is just accept it or not accept it. But I don't think it was genuine though.
Well, do you accept it or
Yeah, I accept it.
you accept the apology?
And this is sort of a two-part question. 9 years from now, if he serves his time, first of all, will he be allowed to come back to the neighborhood that's currently living in? And if he is, what's the step going forward to ensure that he and his family will remain safe and that he wouldn't try to commit something like that?
Well, I think that when he gets out and he's on supervised release, they're going to be pretty adamant about him not having any contact with Jarvis or his family. The HOA, there's a HOA in that neighborhood. It's my understanding that they haven't done anything regarding, I don't believe there was any protections that were extended to the family. There was no warnings that were issued to the neighborhood. So I'm not sure what they have done. And our hope is that others will see this and take it seriously. The Sheriff's Department and the U.S. Attorney's Office, they will remain accessible, make sure Jarvis is protected and his family is protected. Law enforcement is there. But I have not seen any action taken by the housing HOA to either make them feel comfortable about being there or letting others know that nothing regarding firearms, discrimination, racism has any place in the neighborhood.
Is there any legal course you can take as far as trying to address that issue?
Yeah, we will be taking some legal courses, and we'll have more information on that soon.
How have you been able to go on day after day since that incident? Because I would imagine that would be a very difficult thing to have to come to terms with and still live your life.
Well, I know I got to keep moving on, you know what I'm saying, to take care of my family. I just can't stop because of the situation that happened, but it's always going to play a fact in my family's mind, my girls being there in their mind. It's always going to be in their mind because they're young, but I got to do what I got to do to take care of them.
Sorry, I just want to clarify too. I know this is only one step. Can you comment or know anything about the state charges that are still pending?
As far as I know, they are still pending right now. My hope is that the state continues to press charges or prosecute these charges. I'm not sure what they'll do. Of course, they got a lot of cases to resolve. They may think the message has been sent here, but I think the solicitor's office is the best person to answer that. But I know as far as Jarvis, we would like to see full justice here, which is all criminal penalties and any civil liability. All right. Thanks, y'all.
Good luck, Mr. McKenzie.
Thank you for talking with us. All right.
All right, so there you heard from the victim in this case, Jarvis McKenzie, saying, do you accept the apology of Felkel in this case? He apologized in court today. He said he did accept the apology, but he doesn't believe it was a genuine apology, even though he said he does accept it. McKenzie says he's got to keep moving on. Always, though, on his mind will be this incident that happened a year ago, and he said he needs to take care of his family. He added that his Spring Valley neighborhood was his safe place, but it is not anymore. You heard his attorney there say that no hate crime law in South Carolina, so he is pleased to see that the government stepped up and prosecuted this case, adding that he hopes the state will prosecute as well. Before we heard from the victim there, we did hear from Sheriff Leon Lott, who said justice was served in this case, saying if you commit hate crimes in Richland County, you will be prosecuted. Again, 9 years in federal prison for Jonathan Felkel, pleading guilty to violating the housing rights of his black neighbor there, Jarvis McKenzie, a hate crime, using racial slurs and waving around a gun. Authorities and prosecutors say he had hate in his heart. Brian Sterling, the U.S. Attorney, saying racially motivated violence won't be tolerated in the state of South Carolina. So again, it's a 9-year federal prison sentence for Jonathan Felkel. He will have 3 years of supervised release after he is out of prison. We will have much more for you on Friends at 5 later today, and of course on our website, WLTX.com.